How's it going, everyone? It is Drago. We're back with another chapter of Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest, this being a very special chapter, Chapter 100, with the title, An Uninvited Guest. We have multiple cover pages for this chapter, the first of which having everyone in very fancy outfits, drinking wine together, having a nice celebration. And you got a lot going on here. I think the Natsu and Lucy in the corner are very cute together, which actually really looking at it, all the couples are actually kind of together, like Gray and Juvia, Gajiel and Levy. I will say Kana is giving Luxus quite a look. Kind of looking like she might be interested, but I know that was kind of a running joke at the end of the series that he was kind of going around between a bunch of girls, but it also could be that Kana's drunk. This cover does very much remind me of a cover that kind of happened, I think, towards the end of Fairy Tail, to where they were all kind of in fancy outfits like this. It definitely does remind me of the cover that has them all like dining together. Going into the next cover for our chapter 100, you have a cover with all of them being in chibi forms, and it's 100 characters for 100 chapters. Obviously, I'm not going to point out every character, otherwise we'd be here for a while, so I'm just going to point out some of the pictures within this I kind of like. First one being is Gajiel and Levy. I like how he's like touching her stomach. Kind of cute since she's about to have his kid. The clouds that got people that died throughout the series just kind of watching over everyone, especially the gray cloud, with that having Ultir, Silver, Gray's kid, which, I mean, he isn't dead, and then Ultir. Then the other dead cloud being Igneel, Mavis Zeref, Lockade, and I think that's August. I saw a few people joking with the Gray and Juvia on this cover, being like, Juvia, where do you have your hand? Oh no. And again, this cover reminds me of previous covers. I think it was for the 10-year anniversary of Fairy Tail. They did a cover very similar to this. I actually have a bag that's kind of got this on it. From the two covers here, if there's any moments that you guys really liked or just kind of fun things that I didn't notice, leave in the comments below. So picking up with the actual chapter here, you get another color page, pretty much with all the matchups we had from the last chapter, just in one page. I will say I did not think Misaka was actually all like turquoise. Kind of thought she was gonna have like white hair for whatever reason. I will say I did get pretty close on Kirin for my chapter cover, so I'm kind of patting myself on the back for that one. So getting into actual new stuff, that being Natsu versus Suzaku, which I will say most of this chapter is their fight, and I quite enjoyed it. Of course, Natsu's upset about the last time they were there. He didn't get to fully fight him, and he also took the Silene bounty from him, so he's got a few grudges on Suzaku right now. And he does have a very valid question. Of course, he doesn't know what happened with the Diablos Guild, but he wants to know why is he so buddy-buddy with her now. His response is, our goals align, so, it shouldn't matter to you. I really like Natsu's response to this. He's just like, at the end of the day, I really do not care. I'm just going to beat both of you at the end of the day. And they're both getting ready to do their attacks. Suzaku's ready to draw his sword, and Natsu's ready to fling at him. I really like how Natsu activates his fire for this, because at first I'm like, is he just going to try and dodge? But no, he's just doing like an X, and then he's opening his fists up to be fire, and it's so cool looking. He wanted to channel the power of the X-Men, which you can tell he's getting really excited. Suzaku's starting to draw his sword and Natsu just smiling, but I really like the dual shot of them where you get half of each other's face and them ready to square off. That is a cool looking shot right there. Cannot wait for that to get animated. And Suzaku is the first one to strike Natsu, and it looks like a pretty good strike, and Natsu's just smiling from the strike, and Suzaku's like, what the heck's wrong with this guy? Natsu blocked the strike from Suzaku, and this is kind of a detail I kind of want to know about, because you can very clearly see that he's got scales on his arm right now. I thought he was like in Dragon Force maybe, but then like the next panel, if you look at his arm has no scales on it whatsoever. I love that Natsu is so excited that he blocked that attack. I will say later on this page, he literally says the reason why I could block it is because I was using the flames of the Fire Dragon King, and they act as scales. So I guess that's a kind of a detail we never fully known about his, Fire Dragon King attacks, is that it kind of gives him scales under the flames. Unless if it's just like Dragon Force or something like that. I don't know. It's just a detail that kind of stood out to me, because I'm like, how come he has scales in one panel, then the next panel he doesn't get scales? What the flip's going on here? But yeah, Suzaku was absolutely shocked that Natsu could have even blocked that attack. And he's like, no one else can do that. How come you can? Of course, that's where you get him talking about the Fire Dragon King magic, and that his flames are the scales of the Fire Dragon King. So Natsu goes at him with a pretty decent slash, but pretty sure that did not connect, which is immediately followed up with a slash by Suzaku, but Natsu's arm blocks it. And Suzaku is really fazed by this, like he's bothered that he cannot connect an attack to him. And Natsu's just having a grand old time. I like Natsu's confidence here. He's like, if I just concentrate a little bit, I can do anything. And Suzaku's going in for another slash. And, Natsu learned from the best. He went in for a Natsu kick. He basically points out, Suzaku's weak spots, like, oh, right here, this exact spot is your weak point, and I'm going to hit it. And Suzaku whips out the Kanugi sword, and he strikes the walls of the labyrinth, which it does absolutely nothing. Even Natsu's like, yeah, I know that wasn't going to do anything. Like, didn't you know that these walls are basically indestructible? And Natsu lands a very decent hit against Suzaku, punching him square in the face. Which is really getting to Suzaku because, he gets back up and he's like, have I lost my edge? Like, how is this guy beating me? Which I will say, if Natsu probably didn't say anything here, he'd probably be good. But Natsu tells him, you didn't lose your edge any bit. And Suzaku is still like, what? I do not get how you've grown this strong in such a short amount of time. I like Natsu talking about how he's training every day so he can get real tough. And Suzaku probably doesn't think that answer is good enough because, he's like, your movements, that and your movements. Which I'm going to quote Natsu exactly here because he says, yeah, it's all in the movement. If you fight the same way as your enemy, then you can read their moves. I like that we get actually a little bit of insight as to how Natsu fights. Because he's like, once you understand that of all things, that's how you build your strength. Which you get a cool shot of Natsu and Suzaku, attacking each other and it kind of being a stalemate. Which Suzaku must not think that Natsu has the most amount of intelligence because he starts asking him math questions. Asking him what 12 minus 5 is. Which Natsu is, with the big brain plays, he's like, what 12 minus 5, give me your answer first. Which I quite love how Natsu tries to figure out this math problem. Because he's like, well, Lucy has like 12 keys, right? So, what do I get when I take away 5 of them? Which he comes up with the answer of 10, which, Lucy has 10 zodiac keys of the golden variety. So, if he was going on Lucy's keys, that's how many she starts out with. Either way, Natsu gets that math problem wrong, but it basically says, even though he's kind of stupid, he is a genius when it comes to fighting, which Suzaku quite literally does a low blow, hitting him with the sword uppercut, which again, you can see the scales on Natsu's shoulder in the reaction shot. But it's a pretty simple answer as to how he was able to hit Natsu, and of course it was the I altered my steps and you couldn't figure it out, which it was but a scratch to Natsu and he's still in the game ready to roll. And Suzaku's still pretty flustered and he's like, okay, if I'm to cut the scales of the Fire Dragon King, I need to improve my concentration. Natsu's going to retaliate with the Fire Dragon King's Demolition Fist, and it completely engulfs Suzaku in his fire, which Natsu is pretty upset about this because he's like, wait, what? You blocked my flames? You're not allowed to do that. How freaking dare you? Which Suzaku counters with the Kanugi style sword drawing art Abyss. And then the full name of the attack being Underworld Black Purgatory Slash, and that really hits up Natsu. But he still is doing his X-Men block and he gets pushed back and he's pretty cut up, kind of reminding me of the Tower of Heaven. Honestly, that block looked like it kind of took quite a bit out of Natsu because he's, really cut up and he looks like he's kind of huffing and puffing here and he's like, whew, that was close. Which Natsu's like, if I used any of my magic as a counterattack, I probably would have gotten smashed to pieces. Suzaku is like, you're not allowed to dodge that. How friggin' dare you? Which Suzaku's like, ugh, it's getting so hot in here. It must be because of these flames of the Fire Dragon King. Ugh. Natsu's like, no, that's not me. And it's getting so hot to where it's actually melting the walls of the labyrinth here. And Natsu's like, wait, I thought these walls couldn't be destroyed, so how are they melting? And you get someone responding, they're melting, but not because of a human. And someone steps into the middle of their fight, that being Ignia, the Fire Dragon God. And other people in the labyrinth are noticing his magic power and like, wait, someone is here that shouldn't be here. Which Silene's freaking out that he's here, like, oh my goodness, does he know the secret of this labyrinth as well? Oh no. And that is the end of chapter 100 of Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest. So my thoughts. We'll see where the Ignia thing goes, but I kind of don't love him stepping into the fight between Natsu and Suzaku because I was really enjoying how their fight was going down and I was really wanting Natsu to win it. Especially with the end little bits of that fight, I don't think Natsu was particularly doing that well at defeating him because Natsu is pretty well beat up. I did really like that you get more of an insight into Natsu's fighting style. and him actually talking about like what he looks for and how he trains and stuff. We'll have to see how this Ignia thing goes. I hope it doesn't get bad, but I just wanted to see the fight between these two, just one-on-one, no interruptions, who will win. But I guess it is, why is Ignia here and what's his plans at the end of the day, and does he actually know what's happening in the labyrinth? There's also a character popularity poll happening right now, so we'll have to see how that goes. I want Lucy to get number 1, but I imagine probably Juvia and Urza will probably beat her out. And speaking of Urza, I am currently making the Urza Scarlet character discussion video. I'm editing that. It's been quite the project. I have like, I think 3 hours of audio just to go through of recording for that one. So I'm like, oh great, I have to go through all this. With the new sections I recorded, I'm really enjoying it. So what did you guys think of the chapter? Leave it in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and this is Drago, signing out.